Grids are a mesh of vertical and horizontal lines that you can use to more easily see the alignment and organization of objects in your images. Photoshop also divides the grids into subdivisions of lines that are not as visible but are visible enough to be useful. The grid is useful for laying out elements symmetrically. The grid appears by default as non-printing lines, but can also be displayed as dots. To show or hide the grid, you need to go to View menu, Show, and Grid, or press the keyboard shortcut. A great feature of Photoshop is that you can force items to be snapped to grids. To enable or disable this feature, you can go to View menu, Snap to, and Grid. By enabling this item along with the Snap command from the View menu, you can have benefits of the combination use of the grid and the snap. If I want to draw a rectangle, for example, or move it, you can feel the snap near the grid edges. The number of grid lines, colors, and style can be configured in the Edit menu, Preferences, Guides, Grid, and Slices. You can customize the grid color, style, major grid lines offsets, and the number of subdivisions between major grid lines. Guides are non-printing vertical or horizontal lines that you can add to a document in 5 ways. The first method of creating guides is using rulers. If rulers are not enabled, go to View menu and click on the rulers or press Ctrl+R. When you have the document rulers, move your mouse over the vertical or horizontal ruler. Then click and drag the guideline into your document and drop it where you want. You can add guides as many as you want. To move the guides, you can use the Move tool to move them. You can move precisely by holding Shift key while moving, and also you can rotate the guides by holding the Alt key while moving. If you don't want to move the guides accidentally, go to the View menu and enable the Lock Guides. If you want to clear the guides, you can move them on one of the rulers and release them to clear one by one. Or you can click the Clear Guides in the View menu to clear all the guides. The second method of creating the guides is to select the New Guide command from the View menu. By this, a dialog box appears. You can set the orientation by selecting horizontal or vertical, and also you can specify the exact position of this guide on the document. To change the units in the position text box, you can right-click inside the text box and select the unit as you use. One tip that I like to mention here is that we have the percentage unit here that is very useful in designing layouts, brochures, and flyouts. The third method of creating guides is using New Guide Layout from View menu. By this command in Photoshop CC, you can create multiple guides by one shot. By this, you can specify the number of columns and rows, width and height of columns and rows, and the gutter, that is the space between guides. If you set the gutter to 0, you don't have any space between guides, and you see one guide for each position. You can set the margins, including top, left, bottom, and the right, if you want to have a space on the edges of the document. And finally, you can check center columns to center the columns on the document, and check clear existing guides to clear all previous guides on the document. The fourth method of creating guides is to create guides from shapes. Here we have a document with some shapes. It doesn't matter how your shapes are. This method can implement on both vector and pixel shapes. You need to select the shape layer on the layer panel and then click on the view menu and then click on the new guide from shapes. Photoshop calculates the boundary of the pixels and then create the guides automatically. I repeat this method on the raster shape layer again, and you can see there is no difference between vector and raster shapes layer in creating guides. The last method of having guides is to enable the Smart Guide from View menu, Show, and Smart Guides. By enabling this option, you have the temporary guides or Smart Guides on your document as you draw the shapes or move them on the document. This feature is very useful in positioning and drawing shapes. Okay, now you are about ready to start drawing the shapes. But before start drawing, you need to know Shape Tools modes. That is the subject of the next video.